up, band heads? So, I hope you all had a good week. We took a week off last week because honestly, I'm gonna just be real. Like, I was at my SAI convention, I was at Psi 85, I went to DCI. Like, I was doing all the things. We are outside again. I'm masked up, but we're outside. But anyway, so band season's about to start. It is August and folks are in camps and everything. And so I thought I would talk to a really good buddy of mine who represents FAMU. Like, when you say name FAMU, she is the person that I think of. There's a couple people that come to mind, but she's definitely one of those people. And I really enjoyed talking with her. And she's actually the president of the National Alumni Band Association. So yeah, if it's one thing about Kim, she's going to represent the 100. So here is my interview with Kim Evans. All right, I am here with my good buddy, a good buddy of mine who I've known for years. We are with Kim Evans, who is, among many things, she's a teacher and she's also president of the Marching 100 of FAMU, their Alumni Association. So she definitely marched for FAMU, and you were a flute player, right?
No,
clarinet. Okay, what? Why did I mess that up? Somebody on my own instrument. Okay.
Hey, that's all right, but it's the right instrument though.
Yes, that's the right instrument. Okay. I knew it was a woodwind. So anyway, yes, so Kim, how are you doing?
I am doing well. How are you?
I am doing great. It is really good to see you and talk to you because it's been a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're gonna dive right into it because I know the people want to know about your life. So let's start from the beginning. Where's your hometown?
My hometown is actually Quincy, Florida. I know a lot of people thought I grew up in Tallahassee, which I did spend some time in Tallahassee, but I actually was born in Quincy. And a little bit about Quincy. Quincy is about 20 minutes west of Tallahassee. And it's, of course, the county seat of Gaston County. And that's really important because Gaston County is the only predominantly Black county in the state of Florida.
Really?
Yes. It's about 54% African-American, 33% white, 13% Hispanic. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, was music a big factor, like growing up, Black music?
Yeah. Well, actually, my musical background actually started with my great grandmother. Her name was Miss Maddie Andrews Lawson, and she was an elementary teacher for over 40 years. But she was well known as one of the church pianists in one of our local churches in Gaston County. And so I used to spend Sundays with her, playing the piano with her, and that's when I really wanted to learn more about music, was because of her.
Okay. So was piano your first instrument?
Piano was my first instrument at the age of 5, and I stuck with it all the way through college. But of course, when it came to 6th grade, and of course I had to make choices about classes, I immediately told my parents I wanted to be in the band. That was it. And actually, my top 3 instruments that I wanted to play were clarinet, alto saxophone, and the flute.
So just woodwinds all the way.
Woodwind. I was woodwind sold. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what was your middle school band like? So you said you started in the 6th grade on clarinet, your main instrument.
Yeah. That was 6th grade. When I started in band in middle school, it was fun, but I wanted a little more. I'm the type of person, I love to be challenged. And so I wanted a little challenge, yes, sitting down and playing certain songs. Yeah, that was cool, but I wanted more. So my 7th grade year, that's when I had a new music teacher, and his name, God rest his soul, is Mr. Eric Riera. And Mr. Riera came up in the 100 in the 80s, in the early 80s. Mm-hmm. And so he brought everything he learned about the 100 to middle school. So at that time, he had created the first ever middle school marching band for our school at the time. And that was such an awesome experience. And so that was really one of my first early tastes of, getting the idea about what life in March 100 would be like.
So you all did high stepping, and it was like a mini 100.
Yes, we did high stepping. We participated in a lot of parades. We even did dance routines.
Okay.
Yes.
So when is the first time you saw FAMU's band? I mean, I figure.
Oh, I was a toddler.
Okay. Yeah.
I was a toddler. My mother is a two-time graduate of Florida A&M University. So, of course, she and, of course, my stepdad would take me to the FAMU football games, especially homecoming. So, yeah, I had my early taste of homecoming as a toddler. And so, of course, yes, I love football. Don't get me wrong. I am a huge football fan. Shout out to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. However, my number one reason for going to the football games was the band. So every time the band stepped on the field, I was just in tune with the band. I didn't pay attention to anything else but the band.
Wow. So your story kind of sounds a little bit similar to mine. Growing up, seeing. So I said to myself, if it's one thing about Kim, she gonna rep FAMU, she gonna rep the 100, and she gonna rep Tampa Bay.
That is correct.
Yes. Okay, so we're gonna get back to, all right, so you get in this like mini 100 in middle school, and then high school. So what was that like?
High school was totally different. My band director graduated from the University of Florida.
Okay.
So I switched from high knee stepping to glide stepping.
Ooh, okay. That was culture shock.
It was a culture shock, yes. But at the same time, I had goals. I was like, okay, yeah, this is different, but I'm gonna stick with it. Because I wanted to improve with my instrument. So I stuck with it. And to my senior year, I ended up being co-section leader in the clarinet section during my senior year in high school. And see, at that time, I was really deciding, okay, do I want to march in a college band or not? But another great influence that stepped into my life during my freshman year of high school was Dr. Julian E. White.
Okay.
I went to school with his youngest daughter, Phaedra. And at the time when I first met Phaedra, she was a senior and I was a freshman.
Okay.
And so, of course, we became great friends ever since then. And so, of course, Dr. White would visit and rehearse the band, the symphonic band, mostly, and to prepare us for district and state competition. And so that freshman year, Dr. White told me, he was like, hey, you're going to be in the 100, right? And I'm looking at him like, oh, okay. And I'm thinking to myself, really? Am I that good to be in that band?
Mm-hmm.
But he never gave up on me. He was adamant. He was like, you're going to be in the 100. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but you're going to be in the 100. I'm like, okay, Doc. Okay.
Wow. So he's known my senior year, like 14.
Yeah. Yes. So my senior year, I was making decisions, and believe it or not, the beginning of my senior year, I was actually set on attending Florida State. Yes, I almost became a Seminole. Yes.
Wait a minute.
Yes.
That does not compute with me. Oh my gosh.
Right. I almost became a Florida State Seminole. Yes. Now my stepdad graduated from Florida State. He did. Yeah.
Okay.
So I had a few family members that graduated from Florida State, and a few graduated from FAM. So I'm right in the middle. Mm-hmm. So I was set at attending Florida State. Now I wasn't sure about becoming a member of the Marching Chiefs. Wasn't, yeah. Mm-hmm. So, but Dr. White gave me a call. He got in contact with my parents, and he went ahead and set up an audition for me. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay. So I was like, okay, Mom, I guess I'll go to this audition. So went to the audition. There was Dr. White. Dr. White was smiling from ear to ear. I was like, here we go. So, I did the oral exam, and then he asked me to play my solo. Now, as soon as I was getting ready to play my state solo, that's when Dr. William P. Foster walks in.
Oh my goodness.
I was frozen. I was like, wait a minute. This is the man. Mm-hmm. That's what I kept saying in my brain. This is the man.
Absolutely.
So Dr. White introduced me to Dr. Foster, and I was like, hello, sir. It is an honor to meet you. I'm just like, this is Dr. Foster. Mm-hmm. Okay. So he asked me if I was ready to play my solo. I was like, I have no choice but to be ready. And so I played my solo, and Dr. Foster said, young lady, you are a fine clarinet player. I was like, thank you. And he looked at
the compliment of life.
Yes. And then I would never forget this moment. he looked at Dr. White and said, Julian, he called him Julian. He said, Julian, could you go ahead and prepare the paperwork ready? I would like to offer this young lady a full music scholarship.
Look at God. See?
Once again, I just stared. I was in shock. I was like, did he just say full ride? Did he just say that? And so, yes, I was offered a full music scholarship to attend FAMU. So Florida State, that went out the window when he said that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's music to anybody's ears.
No, I'm going to Florida A&M. That's done deal. So that led me to Florida A&M University.
Oh my gosh, that is an awesome story, Kim. That's an awesome story.
Yes.
So, you said you got a full scholarship there. Did you have to be a music major? And let's go back to high school. Did you know you wanted to be a music instructor?
No.
Okay.
I actually was going to be a biology major because I was interested in medicine, particularly becoming a pediatrician or a pediatric nurse practitioner. Yeah.
Okay.
Because I love science. I used to be a science geek, believe it or not. So
another thing I cannot picture you as, man. I'm telling you, like when I think of you,
math is, I love me some math and some science. Yes.
Okay.
So, and it's funny that, when I teach my buddy musicians now, when they notice that I know a few things about math and science, they're looking at me like, Miss Evans, you do that? Yeah. Yeah, they were like, good night. So I was originally a biology pre-med major. So when I was actually given a music scholarship, at that time I wasn't a music major.
Mm-hmm.
But I did change my major second semester freshman year. And the reason why is because I had an experience of, teaching and working with younger children for a volunteer opportunity with members of the 100. And that was such an awesome experience. I was like, you know what? I love working with kids. Why not teach? So at second semester freshman year, I changed my major to music education.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's good. So, wow, I'm just trying to, you are enlightening me today because I had this thought in my head about how this was going to go, but this is good. This is good stuff. All right. So the 100, did you go to any band camps before, like in high school? Okay.
I did not attend any of the band camps. Now, mind you, the first band camp started in 1990. And in 1990, I actually visited band camp, but I didn't participate. And I know in 1990, when band camp first started at FAMU, it was only 2 schools that brought students. That was Burke High School in Charleston, South Carolina, and William M. Raines High School in Jacksonville. So they brought their students. And of course, both band directors were from Florida A&M. So, they brought their kids. So ever since then, 90, the numbers kept growing. They kept growing. So now this year for the 2022 band camp, we are expecting 600 kiddos.
I absolutely believe it. I mean, I remember seeing, was it from last year? Because, COVID was just funky acting. But I feel like y'all played, the campers played something last year and I was like, oh, they sound real good.
Yes, and last year's camp was just a day camp. We didn't have any students to stay overnight because of COVID. But it was originally supposed to be a camp for just the local students. But the out of towners were like, we want to come. I don't care if we have to pay a hotel rate. And so we still were able to get 250 kids from last year, even during COVID. And of course, with all the safety precautions we took, none of our students got sick, and the kids had a wonderful time.
Oh, wow. Okay. Look, we got to get this back to you because this is about you. This is about you. But I know you love your 100. So let's talk about band camp, your first camp.
Ooh, I will never forget this date. August the 10th, 1992.
I remember my first day camp too.
That was that day. When I walked in the Foster Tanner Music Building, I was nervous. I'm like, okay, Kim, can you really do this? And so when I walked up to the second floor, because auditions were held on the second floor, and there was this long line of students that were going to be potentially my freshman brothers and sisters. And so, I just waited patiently. I had a conversation with a couple of them. And so then I walked into the audition room. There was Dr. White, Dr. Foster, the late Professor Charles S. Bing. He was such a great guy. Dr. Daniels, God rest his soul too, and Dr. Shayla James. They were all there. And Lindsay B. Sargent was there. So you had all the head honchos right there. I'm like, oh boy. So they asked me to play my scales, played my scales. They asked me to play my state solo, play my state solo. But I played my state solo by memory. So they were like, wait a minute, you didn't need your sheet music? I was like, no, I actually memorized it for state competition. And so
muscle memory. That
you're
good old
right.
muscle memory.
They were like, oh, okay. And so did that. I did my audition. They would say, okay, we'll see you at such and such time. I'm like, okay. So went and grabbed my clarinet, went back to my dorm, got my room set up. So, of course, when I met my freshman brothers and sisters, we all had that look on our face like, are we really going to do this? So, of course, that week, yes, those days were long. Oh, they were long. I wasn't even worried about what time it was. I was like, listen, I'm going to do what it takes to make this band. So yes, learning all the music, marching up and down the field, learning the right concept. But yes, those days were grueling. But if I was to go back in 1992, I wouldn't change a thing.
I know you wouldn't.
I wouldn't, because it really prepared me, not just for my career, but it prepared me for life. The 100 taught me that no matter what task is in front of you, there is a way to accomplish it. Not only accomplish it, but accomplish it well. That's what the 100 taught me.
Wow. Okay, so let's talk about that first time you put on that uniform. Did you cry?
Yes. I had tears. I was nervous. I was like, oh my God, this is the uniform. Oh my God, it's heavy. Because the uniforms back then were heavy. I was like, oh, this thing is heavy. All right. Okay, we go do this. And the first game we played was at Bragg Stadium versus South Carolina State University.
Oh, okay. So that's a rival there. So let me just inform folks what's going on. So you have the Marching 100 of FAMU, and you have the Marching 101 of South Carolina State. You have Lindsay Sargent, who is the arranger at FAMU, and then you have his brother, Ronald Sargent, who is the director at South Carolina State. So you have the sibling rivalry. And then, So
yes. Now, and the thing is, for those who have never visited Bragg Stadium, all right, let me educate y'all about Bragg. In my opinion, there are two stadiums where the crowd, when it comes to the fans, you really have to impress them to get their attention. That is Bragg Stadium, home of FAMU, and Mumford Stadium against Southern.
I knew you were going to say Mumford. I knew you were going to say
Bragg. Listen, I keep telling folks, if you go to those two stadiums particularly, your show has to be on point to get applause. I'm just keeping it real. So, our fans, no matter which school, our fans will let you know how they feel. No holds barred. So, of course, with South Carolina State, in the 100, we had a few friends who marched in South Carolina State Band. So, that really made it, a rivalry back then. So, of course, South Carolina State, they won the field first. And they played our concert selection, which was Boyz II Men and The Road.
Well, I mean, it was out then. That's a popular song.
Yeah, and that was the number one song back then. That was the number one song. So they played it. And I saw the upperclassmen in my section. They were laughing. I was like, uh-oh. And then I heard the Bragg Stadium crowd. I was like, uh-oh. They better hurry up. Uh-oh. And so then it was our turn. That's when the jitters really came in. I was like, oh my God, this is my first performance in this band. I said, okay, I better do this right. I better not make a mistake. So we performed, we played End of the Road. Yes, the difference was clear. And Joe Bullett's famous for that phrase.
Yes,
And
I know.
we, of course, we did dance routine. I mean, the crowd was hype. And I was like, when we marched off, I was in awe. I was like, oh my God, I did it. I was like, wow, And so, and that really kind of set up for the rest of the season. Because, the weekend afterwards, we played the University of Miami. Now, let me tell you about University of Miami. When it comes to HBCU bands, Miami Hurricane fans love HBCU band pageantry. They love it. So, of course, we walk in, there's the crowd, they're all clapping. I do not recall anyone booing or anything. They were like, listen, 100 here. They did not want to hear their own band. That's how serious it was. But that was an awesome experience to perform at a Miami Hurricane game. Now, yeah, we knew our football team was going to lose. We knew that. But, just to perform there, that was a great experience too, to get response from an HBCU side and from a PWI side. So that was interesting. But I know that year we traveled a lot.
So how was your first Florida Classic?
My first Florida Classic was fun. It was a lot of fun. And, back then, Bethune-Cookman's band was not on the level that it is now. So, they were much smaller, and we didn't really look at them like a rival. We kind of treated them like a little sister.
But in '92, they were decent. They
were decent. Oh yeah, don't get me wrong. They were decent.
Dr. Bray.
Yeah, they were decent. Yeah. And I had a real good friend of mine. One of my homeboys was a freshman, same time as I wasn't, but he was at Bethune-Cookman band, and he ended up becoming drum major back in '97. His name is Tori Walker. And so Tori and I, we kind of connected with each other before, the game. So we used to do a little wave to know who we are. So we saw each other, so we knew who we were. But, it was a great game. So after halftime, that's when we knew we were officially members of the Marching 100. Oh, my goodness. Next thing you know, here come our hats. Here come our specialized shirts. My mom had something for me. I was like, oh, man.
Yeah. How'd your mom feel?
Oh, she was ecstatic. She was so proud. She was like, oh, my baby in the 100. Moms, let me say one thing about our parents, they want nothing but the best for us. And to see us do things such as participate in 100, graduate with your degree. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about like some of the highlights through your 4 years marching, because you did march for 4 years, right?
Yes, I actually marched for 4.5. My last time marching was in fall '96.
Oh wait, so you were in the you faced us when we came to Bragg.
Yes.
Wait a minute, were you at that party afterwards?
Yes.
So was I.
Yes, I was there.
That is hilarious.
Yeah.
Of course, we didn't know each other back then.
No.
I was like, they threw a party for us, and that was so much fun.
Yes, I was there.
That is funny. I did not get happy like a lot of people that were.
Right.
But I enjoyed the sights. Let's just say that.
Yes.
Absolutely. So I'm just trying to think, like, who in FAMU's band, if you want to shout somebody out, who do you remember for, like, being a good marcher, maybe a drum major, like?
Oh, wow. Boy, that's a good question, because one thing about the 100, it was so many wonderful people who I marched with. I'm gonna be very honest. I marched with some people that they were outstanding marchers, they were outstanding musicians. Academically, they were great. I'll give you a great example. In terms of drum major, one drum major that really stood out to me was Milton Wilson. Milton was my drum major during my freshman year, fall 92. And he was the epitome of a leader. He wasn't the type that was loud. He wasn't obnoxious, nothing like that. But the way he carried himself, you could tell immediately that he was a leader. And of course, he graduated summa cum laude in criminal justice, and he's been involved in government, and he's the epitome of a leader. Definitely the epitome of a leader.
Wow.
So in terms of drum majors, he really stood out to me as a leader. Don't get me wrong, many of our drum majors were great leaders, but he really stood out. In terms of marching, oh man.
Or even musician,
musicians, oh man. Now where could I start?
Who pops in your head? Just off the cuff.
Okay, I'm gonna start with my freshman brother, Dyron Holloway. Dyron is, of course, now the assistant director of bands at Florida Memorial University. Just a talented, gifted musician. And of course, during symphonic band, all 4 years, he was first chair, I was second chair. So, we always had that, that camaraderie, that's freshman brother. He's like, that's my freshman sister. But he was such a talented man. Also, my frat brother, James Sada, who was the director of bands at Southwest DeKalb High School in Atlanta. Whew, boy, the way he could play a trumpet, I'm telling you, that's a talented brother. And one great memory of James is during any break times during rehearsals, James would just come out of nowhere and play themes from commercials. And I remember one time he played the theme of The Price is Right. And you know how silly we are. We have to be silly to kind of let out frustrations. So you had people running down the hill, like, come on down. They bouncing around. I'm like, oh my God. But we had some great music. Melton Mustafa, he's another one, an excellent saxophone player. And of course, he's in charge of the Melton Mustafa Jazz Festival that he hosts in Miami every year in February. And so, it's so many outstanding musicians that came from the 100. Of course, you have, oh God, so many.
Well, I don't want to put you on the spot. I know there's plenty you can choose from.
Wycliffe Gordon, yeah.
But you did all of your years under Dr. Foster, because didn't he retire in 97?
Yeah, he retired actually in 98.
98, okay, okay.
Yes, summer of 98.
Yeah, I met him at the first Honda, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That's when I got a chance to meet him.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, Dr. Foster, if there's one word to me, Dr. Foster was a musical genius. That man had so much knowledge. It was unreal. I mean, to this day, I still couldn't believe that as I was prepared to graduate, he knew my name, he knew my parents, he knew where I was from and my major. Like, whoa. Doc, you remember all of that? But no, he was an amazing man. Amazing.
Wow. Yeah. So let's talk about after you graduate, because you've been teaching for what, 25 years?
25 years.
That's amazing. Are you elementary, middle, high school? Like what?
I am elementary. I have taught elementary school for the past 23 years. My first 2 years, I taught at a rural junior senior high school, small school, 7th through 12th grade. And at the time they had a music program, but it wasn't flourishing, it was, it was just a class. But I wanted the students to not only just be taught music, I want them to learn how to enjoy music. It's one thing to just be taught it, but to learn to enjoy it is a whole different ballgame. And so, I had students who never touched the instrument to a few students who did. And so, through my various classes, I had students to learn different instruments. They had their first concert back in spring of 98. The kids did a great job. Now, mind you, I taught both band and chorus at the school.
Oh,
yes.
that's
And
a
so
lot.
I had my students singing, I had my students performing, and they were really they were enjoying music. They were really learning to enjoy music. And I had a few students to tell me, it's like, Miss Evans, you the reason why I'm still in school, because quite a few had contemplated dropping out of school.
Wow.
They stayed in school because they wanted to come to my class. And my principal at the time couldn't believe that. They were like, wait a minute, he in class? I was like, yes, he's never skipped my class.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, really? I was like, yeah, he's never skipped my class. So one day, my principal decided to come to my classroom a little early before this student came to the class. And sure enough, that student came to my class on time. And my principal was shocked. He was like, I was like, I told you he comes to my class. And so during that time, we were doing a little project on music history and everything. And I knew that he was very good at art. So my students, they were creating this timeline and everything because they were learning about music history and everything. And my principal was amazed that my high school students, now mind you, they were between the ages of 16 and 18. He was shocked that, number one, they were in class, and number two, they were engaged.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He was shocked. And he was like, Miss Evans, you don't understand. I have a hard time keeping these boys and girls in class.
Right.
But they stay in your class. I was like, I keep them engaged. And number two, I really got to know them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, what triggers them? What can I do to keep them engaged and learning? And so I came up with different projects for them to do, and they didn't miss a class.
That is awesome. See what music can do. I'm telling you, you've been a good teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and at that time, after 2 years, it was a different transition with the school. No funding was being there, coming into music. So I moved from Gaston County, where I was born and raised, to Pinellas County, which is the St. Petersburg area. And I taught there for about 12 years. And that's when I started teaching elementary music. I love elementary music. And I tell people elementary music is really important, especially for a band sense and from a chorus sense, but definitely from a band sense, because you really want to get the kids' attention and you want to get them excited about learning instruments. So, here I am, I'm giving this, I'm giving students are giving assignments, the students are learning about different instruments. And of course, with elementary, you mostly start with percussion and with recorders.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I had them going with that. And, the students loved it. So some of them went ahead and went on into band. I had a few to go on to chorus too, which is great. But, I'm making sure these students are learning and they're enjoying learning. And I think that's the number one thing, is we have to make sure our kids love learning.
Wow. Well, that's awesome, Kim. So the Marching 100 Alumni Association.
Yes.
So you are the current president, right?
Yes. I was elected in October of 2021. And I began my presidency on January the 1st of this year. And so far, it has been a very, very good experience for me. Of course, working with my peers, working with people I marched with, those who marched after me or even before me. It's great when collective minds come together for a great purpose. And of course, the purpose of our association is we are to advocate for the FAMU bands, and we assist them. And the ways that we assist them is through financial contributions. We do offer scholarships to our current students. We also do book vouchers. We also do band camp scholarships for students who want to attend our band camp. And one of the things we've learned throughout the years is, in terms of the band camp scholarships, more than 70% of the students who received a band camp scholarship from us ended up becoming members of the 100.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's awesome. That's a good recruitment tool.
Yes.
So I know you were different offices before president, right?
Yes. Yes, I served as recording secretary, activities chair, membership chair, education chair. Past 6 years before I became president, I was the executive vice president.
Okay. Okay. Wow. You definitely like paid your dues. So
Yes.
so so we're gonna switch gears a little bit. Let's talk
Okay.
about this book that's coming up. So
Oh,
yes, so shout out to Dr. Ashley Little and the HBCU Experience movement.
yes.
Kim is one of our authors for the book that is coming out, the HBCU Experience, HBCU Band Alumni Edition, the second edition. And when we were going through and trying to, ask people who would be good for it, I was like, man, we gotta get Kim, because if it's one thing about Kim, she gonna rep FAMU. So I
Yes.
just knew you would be perfect for it. And I'm glad you did it. So
Yes.
without spoiling anything, can you give me a little teaser about what's in your chapter?
Oh, my chapter basically talks about my lifelong journey about seeing a great band and how the dream basically came into fruition.
Okay, that's a good teaser right there. All right,
Mhm.
so you'll be able to get it on Amazon.com. It's coming out at the end of June. Probably by the time this airs, it will be out. So go to either Amazon.com or the HBCU Experience Movement website. And I'm really excited, man. When we let
Yes.
y'all know who is in this book, it is some heavy hitters. You hear me?
Mhm.
Yes, yes, yes. Not that the last volume didn't have any heavy hitters, because they definitely
Oh, they
did. But
did.
yeah. But it's some good people this time too. So just to kind of wrap things up, to close things, if you could, well, first of all, just tell me kind of like what's on your heart, and maybe more specifically, what lessons do you take from marching in the 100? What lessons maybe do you bring to the classroom?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. A lot of them. If I was to narrow it down, number one, I think the number one lesson I learned about being in the March 100 is, number one, anything is possible.
Mhm.
Long as you stick to your goals and aspirations, anything is possible. One thing about learning through being a member of the 100, if you can go through the 100, you can accomplish pretty much anything in life.
Mhm.
Let me tell you, between our awesome band staff to my colleagues that I marched with, oh man, I marched with some awesome people from all walks of life. And the thing is, we've learned so much from each other. We've helped each other grow.
Mhm.
We helped each other grow. So
Mhm.
it's not always an individual thing. We are a FAMU. That's how we say it at FAMU. We are a FAMU. And when
Right.
it comes to the 100, we are definitely a family. And
Mhm.
to this day, so what's really interesting is that, many of us have been friends for over 25 years. We are involved with the lives of their children. We're like the aunts, uncles, godparents of each other's kids. So,
Mhm.
we really truly look out for one another. But once again, as I said, we also learn from one another, and we help each other grow in ways that we would never thought we could, grow from. And so,
Mhm.
going through that experience with the 100, yes, there's some ups, yes, there's some downs, there's some days you're like, okay, how am I going to do it? But when you make it through, and you graduate with your degree, and here you are in your career, and you have a situation that comes up, some people panic. We don't panic as much because we're thinking back to our experience in the band and how we problem solve. And so, when it comes to my career as a teacher, if there's a situation, I'm like, oh, okay, this is what we need to do. Da, 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 da. My colleagues looking at me like, you're not worried? I'm like, no,
Mhm.
no. I was like, that's not really something to worry about. I was like, yeah, you got to strategize. You got to plan. That's what I've learned, in my years being a member of the 100.
Wow. Well, you know what? That is a great way to close it up. It was so good talking to you, my
Thank
sis, my
you.
sister.
Same here, sis. Thank
Yes,
you.
yes, yes, yes. You have listened to the HBCU Band Experience with Christy Walker. Interviews and editing conducted by yours truly, Dr. Christy Walker. The music is District 4 by Kevin MacLeod, and you can find this podcast on hbcubandexperience.podbean.com. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever else you get your podcasts. Take care.